3 months ago, my orchid was just a bare stick in a pot. Beautiful green leaves, healthy roots, and not a single flower for almost a year. I'd nearly given up on it. Then I started giving it one spoonful of a single ingredient, once a week, and today that same orchid has a spike loaded with blooms. The wild part? That ingredient costs almost nothing, and it's probably in your kitchen right now. So today I'm going to show you exactly what that one spoon is, precisely how to use it, and why it works, because I don't want you throwing random kitchen scraps at your orchid and hoping. And stick with me to the end, because there's one small timing trick that makes the difference between an orchid that just grows leaves and one that actually pushes out a flower spike. Almost nobody gets that part right. First, let me be honest with you, because this channel is built on telling you the truth in a niche full of hype. There is no magic potion that forces a dead orchid to bloom overnight. Anyone promising that is selling you a fantasy. What I'm about to show you is real, and it works. But it works because it fixes the actual reason your orchid isn't blooming. So let's start there. If your orchid has healthy green leaves but refuses to flower, it's almost never sick. It's usually missing one specific nutrient, and it's getting the wrong signal from its environment. Here's the thing to understand, and if you take one idea from this video, make it this. Leaves and roots are powered by one nutrient, but flowers are powered by another. Orchids that get plenty of nitrogen grow lots of lush green leaves, and then just sit there, leafy and flowerless, because they're low on the nutrient that actually triggers blooming, which is phosphorus, along with potassium. Your orchid isn't broken, it's been eating the wrong meal. And that brings us to the one spoon. The ingredient I use is Epsom salt, plain magnesium sulfate. But let me be very clear about what it does, because this is where most videos lie to you. Epsom salt does not create flowers out of nothing. What magnesium does is help the orchid actually absorb and use the phosphorus it needs to bloom. Magnesium is the atom at the center of chlorophyll, and it's essential for the plant to move nutrients where they need to go. When an orchid is quietly magnesium deficient, which is incredibly common in pots that have been watered with tap water for months, it can't use the bloom nutrients even if they're there. Give it that magnesium, and you unlock the blooming the plant was already trying to do. So here's the exact recipe. Dissolve 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt into 1 liter, about a quart, of room temperature water. Stir until it's completely dissolved. You don't want any undissolved crystals. Then use that solution to water your orchid the way you normally would, letting it drain fully. Do this once every 2 to 3 weeks, not more. That's it. 1 spoon, a jar of water, twice a month. Now, quick pause. If this is already making sense, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I make honest, no-hype plant videos every week, and this orchid series is just getting started. Alright, back to it. Because the Epsom salt is only half the story. Magnesium unlocks the door, but you still need to give the orchid the actual bloom nutrients to walk through it. So alongside that Epsom salt water, feed your orchid a proper bloom booster orchid fertilizer, one that's higher in phosphorus, the middle number on the label. You'll often see these sold as bloom formulas. The rule with orchids is feed weekly. A quarter-strength dose of orchid fertilizer with most waterings during active growth. The Epsom salt makes the magnesium available. The bloom fertilizer supplies the phosphorus and potassium. Together, that's the full meal your orchid needs to set a spike. One without the other only gets you halfway. But here's where most people still fail, even doing all of that. And this is the timing trick I promised you at the top. Nutrition alone will not make a phalaenopsis orchid produce a flower spike. It needs a trigger, and that trigger is a temperature drop at night. In nature, orchids bloom after the cooler nights of fall, signal that the season has changed. So here's what you do. For about 3 to 4 weeks, give your orchid nights that are around 10 to 15 degrees cooler than its days, ideally dropping into the high 50s or low 60s at night. You can do this by moving it near a window that gets cooler after dark, or into a cooler room in the evening. That nighttime chill is the go signal. Pair that temperature drop with the magnesium and the bloom fertilizer, and that's when you'll see a new spike start to emerge, a little green mitten-shaped tip that becomes your next round of flowers. Miss the temperature drop, and you'll grow the healthiest leaves in the neighborhood and never see a bloom. That's the piece almost everyone leaves out. Now let me save you from the mistake I see constantly, because it undoes everything. Do not overdo the Epsom salt thinking more will bloom it faster. Too much magnesium actually interferes with calcium and can stress the roots, the very opposite of what you want. 1 teaspoon per liter every 2 to 3 weeks. Respect the dose. More is not better. Consistency is better. And one more honest caveat. If your orchid is getting almost no light, none of this will work. Orchids need bright, indirect light to have the energy to bloom in the first place. A spot near an east-facing window is perfect. Feed a plant sitting in a dark corner, and you're just wasting good fertilizer. So let's put the whole system together, because it's simpler than it sounds. 1. Once every 2 to 3 weeks, water with 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt dissolved in a liter of water. That's your magnesium to unlock nutrient uptake. 2. Feed a quarter-strength bloom orchid fertilizer, higher in phosphorus, weekly during growth. 3. Give it bright indirect light so it has the energy to flower. And 4. The key that ties it all together, give it 3 to 4 weeks of cooler nights to trigger the spike. Do those 4 things, and you're not forcing a bloom with magic. You're giving your orchid exactly what it's been asking for all along. That orchid that was a bare stick in my kitchen, this is everything I did, and it's blooming right now because of it. There's nothing exotic here, nothing you can't do this week with a spoon of Epsom salt and a little attention to the nighttime temperature. If this helped, subscribe to Plant Blueprint. I've got a whole honest orchid series coming, including how to save one that's actually dying and how to get a spike to rebloom on the same plant year after year. And tell me in the comments, how long has your orchid gone without blooming? Drop it below, and I'll do my best to help you get it flowering again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.